Muito bom dia. Sou o Sr. Presidente do Comitê Olímpico, estimado amigo José Manuel Constantino, Sr. Vereador da Câmara de Lisboa, amigo Jorge Máximo, os seus presidentes de federações, dirigentes desportivos e todos os presentes de um modo geral. E gostava de fazer uma breve nota para dizer que a realização desta conferência é a prova da vitalidade do Movimento Olímpico Internacional e também do Comitê Olímpico. Devo chamar a atenção que, sendo o desporto um fenómeno tão poderoso, como se diz em antropologia, um fenómeno social total, sendo tão poderoso, é de grande importância que o movimento olímpico ao longo dos anos tenha agarrado em causas centrais. Estou-me a lembrar da questão ambiental, que a Carta Olímpica foi alterada por causa das questões ambientais, tem um vice-presidente dedicado às questões ambientais e agora agarrou um problema muito grave que é a causa dos refugiados. Portanto, o desporto, com todo o seu prestígio, e o movimento olímpico internacional, ao agarrar esta questão, assume para si aquilo que nem sempre na política é fácil resolver e muito menos no plano operacional. Realmente, ao longo da vida, tive algumas intervenções, nomeadamente quando fui dirigente do Conselho da Europa, no caso dos refugiados da Bósnia e Herzegovina, em que tínhamos um programa especial para o apoio. E lembro-me bem que a simples entrada de uma bola num campo de refugiados era a única razão para um sorriso das crianças. Portanto, o desporto, tal como outros instrumentos, a música e a dança, talvez, como são universais, mas o desporto é tão poderoso que era quase a única razão para combater o stress traumático de crianças que tinham visto os seus pais serem fuzilados à sua frente. Neste caso, neste momento, temos um pouco por toda a Europa um problema gravíssimo dos refugiados e iremos hoje abordar que procedimentos são possíveis em termos do desporto e não só serem concretizados. Portugal e Lisboa vivemos, no que respeita a todo o mundo, numa espécie de paisagem protegida. Há pouco dizia aqui a nossa convidada, palestiniana, Anne, que do ponto de vista do ADN nós somos uma espécie de mistura de 30% de judeus, 30% de árabes e outras, e também os lusitanos originais. Portanto, nós próprios, na nossa constituição corporal, temos marcas daquilo que foi a construção de Portugal. E nós, culturalmente, por exemplo, no caso de Lisboa, há escolas com 40 alunos de 40 nações, de 40 países. Ora, e todos convivem magnificamente. Há casos em que os melhores alunos de português são estrangeiros. Portanto, este é um excelente exemplo de que em Portugal e em Lisboa entendemos bem o que é a diversidade e que sabemos acolher. Como disse, o desporto é uma ferramenta muito poderosa. É que o desporto é um direito. E sendo um direito, no nosso caso constitucionalmente consagrado, ele é um direito universal. E, portanto, hoje trazemos aqui o desporto como um fator de paz e entendimento entre os povos. E, bom, vou dar a palavra ao nosso convidado, Alessandro Pinto, que... Alessandro Pinto, it's a Portuguese name, as you know. We have many Pintos in and Alessandro, it's a former expert, é um especialista da Unicef e é diretor do Global Outreach Save the Dream. O Alessandro assentou-me uma questão muito importante. Há várias possibilidades de abordarmos este problema dos refugiados, de uma forma mais teórica, mais formal. Ele esteve no terreno. E é sobre o terreno, andou, como se diz em português, a batê-las. Ele esteve no terreno. E, portanto, tem uma experiência concreta. You have an experience, a real experience in the world of refugees. And one of the main points we are going to talk about. I am explaining to the people. So, dou a palavra ao Alexandro, que fará a sua exposição. Thank you.
Okay, good morning and buongiorno. Now, about my name, okay, a few corrections. I was sure that my name was Portuguese. I was 100% sure. And then one day I was in Dublin, in Ireland, and I enter into this little shop that they give you the crest, you know, they take all your genealogic tree and so find out that the first Pintos, don't mail on me, started in Italy. Then they moved to Portugal. So maybe my name is Italian indeed in the end, but you know.
Welcome to the family.
Thank you. No, yesterday we went to the restaurant and I saw a lot of Pintos, Chardonnay, Pintos. It was a second small correction. I have been in the field in the issue of sports for development and peace, but I have been more in the, let's call it, political field. I was more dealing with the UN as a movement, with the IOC, with FIFA, with sport coming as a movement. And I would like to offer a sort of the status of the art of where all this stands, so that we can give probably a better perspective and a meaningfulness to what we are doing here today. Mr. Fernandez, in his starting remarks, has made very clear how there is the interconnection between development, peace, refugees. It's an interconnection that goes beyond say, but calls also for a great deal of complexity of the problem. There is no one-in-one solution here. It is very important to understand that there are many things that comes into the mix, and with history there are many things that they have been coming into the mix. Without peace, is there still a meaning for international competitions? Can we still set dove freeze in the opening ceremony of whatever games when there are hundreds of conflicts in the rest of the world? On the other hand, does it make sense to stop competitions, to stop this icon of hope for the rest of the world, to show that the world can come together in a competition, competing, but can peaceful come together, because we don't have peace? The world of sport has a natural, genetic connection with peace. What has been said immediately is that in ancient history, the Ekekeria, the famous Olympic truce, was called to in order to be able to have the Olympic Games. Now, the truth is that they were stopped in the wars because the best athletes were also the best warriors. So if you wanted to win the games, you need to use the athletes that you had in battle. But one thing that is very important and related to the problem of refugee is that the very first rite of passing, the very first migration rite, came with the Olympic truce. Because not only these soldiers need to come back to their own land, but in order to come back to their own land, they had to pass through countries which were still at war. So they had this truth applying to themselves, not only with the country that they were at war, but with other countries in order not to assault them. In the 25th of October 1993, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution to re-establish the Olympic truce. And he has done so every 2 years since. Every 2 years, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution in order to call for an Olympic truce. I can tell you that, and you know, I had the privilege of being there, that when in '93 the United Nations passed these truths, they were really believing that something could happen. They really thought that some ceasefire, some truth can come out of that. And indeed they did. It is not well known, but there were 14 ceasefire negotiated for the Atlanta Olympic Games. They were done by UNICEF, forcing immunization projects, and 14 conflicts for a few days stopped their fighting in order to have their children immunized. Now, the problem of peace and war regarding the world of sport, it is not only generated within the UN and within the world of sport, come from the world of politics. I just want to remind you the two greatest boycotts of the history of the Olympism. They came for reason of war or manipulation of reason of war. Olympism was in the brink of really collapsing because Moscow and Los Angeles had witnessed these boycotts. And then in the midst of this, sport came to the rescue. There was a genius, in my opinion a genius, Ted Turner. He invented the Goodwill Games. And the nations that were not competing at the Olympic Games were competing into the Goodwill Games. He proved the emptiness of the meaning of the boycott. He proved that there was really no reason to keep the athletes at home because they wanted to compete. And again, talking to Ted Turner during those days, it was clear that he knew that naturally these things will go away. He knew that it was a fix, it was a band-aid. The Goodwill Games were a band-aid to recompose the unity of sports. So again, it is a complex interaction between the world of sports and the world of peace. Development. This is the other key word, you know, because obviously it's hard to have peace if you don't have development. But what has been the behavior of the world of sports in the face of development during the course of the year? I have divided that into some phases. You know, I like to call, for instance, the first phase in the 80s, the age of charity. In 1982, FIFA hosted a charitable match at Giant Stadium where the money raised was going to help children, UNICEF in that case. And the last of this match was held again in Giant Stadium in 1996. During this period, you probably, if you recall, there were many initiatives where sports was giving the revenues of the tickets. The exhibition was held in order to have the revenues of this competition given to charity. The behavior was, okay, I do something for you, but what I'm giving you is really a charitable offer. There was no interaction, I believe, thought by the world of sport at that time. True is that in the early 90s, President Samaranch signed 3 MOUs of collaboration with UN agencies. One was UNICEF, was UNDP, and the other one was UNESCO. So from this age of charity, there was a sort of trying to come out by the movement of sport. But what really forced the world of sport out of the age of charity into what I call the age of realization were two major scandals. The Nike sweatshops. You will all remember that all our newspapers were invaded by the news that whatever was produced for $2 was sold for 100, you know, and this was done at the expenses normally of children and women working in terrible conditions. And the Caldecott soccer ball stitching scandal. Why it is important to take this as an example? Because this, in the case of the stitching of soccer ball, the province of Caldecott in the 90s was responsible for the 90% of production in the world of soccer balls. Why? Because children have small fingers, and the stitching of these soccer balls is perfect with small fingers, you know. So we have here Osama and his son. His son is 8. Can you show your hands? Can you show your hands? Now, the hands of Zed, who is 8, at the time were already too big to stitch the soccer balls. So there was a world conference called. It was actually called by FIFA with UNICEF, ILO, and the International Manufacturing Sporting Goods Association. We came together and we really wanted to solve these problems. We closed all the sweatshops in Caldecott. We eradicate completely the stitching of soccer balls in their region. We went there and tried to start the development, peace and development, the development of that region. Too bad, it didn't work. It didn't work because the income generating activity of those kids were 3 times as much as the income generating activities of their parents. And whatever their parents, whatever job their parents were after that was not matching the income that they were doing. So no surprise that in 2006, whatever was in Caldecott was moved to Meerut, India, and the World Cup 2006, which as an Italian I remember very happily, but that was again a scandal of stitching soccer ball. So development, it's very, even when it takes really to the bottom of the essence of sport, a ball. Children, a ball, development. It's not easy to come to the solution of this problem. So the complexity of this problem is really important. I have 3 minutes, right? So these 2 events forced all the organization involved to a closer cooperation. In the early 2000, I call this, forgive me for all this name, but orient myself, the age of exuberance started. In 2001, the United Nations named a special advisor for sports and development. In 2004, the Sports for Development and Peace International Working Group started. The IOC was recognized as a seat at the United Nations, and for a few years, I believe the entire world thought that all the problems could be solved through sport. Communication could be solved through sport, education could be solved through sport, vaccination could be solved through sport. As long as we were doing sport festival, children would come, and that would be the moment to finally give them 1 shot of penicillin. But since you need 3, you will organize another sport festival 3 weeks after, and you could do it again. The early 2000s saw the birth of hundreds of NGOs dealing with sports. Right to Play, one that has been working with UNHCR since the beginning, just to name one. And within this contest also another problem emerged, the one of safe sport. You know, it's important that within the sport, sometimes the sports has to protect from themselves and it came out that there were many ways of teaching sports and some were not correct. But this was a moment of great enthusiasm towards sports, between the movement of sports and the movement of NGOs, UN, and collaboration. Now, I believe we are in the age of specifics. We have realized that the complexity of sports for development and peace, it's immense and needs to be solved with specific answers. Refugees is the problem that is emerging. In 2013, the former president of the IOC, Jack Rogge, was named UN Special Envoy for refugees within the UN. He took a trip to Jordan, he took a trip to South Sudan in order to bring attention on these issues. And I believe that now it's important to have bilateral agreements between comprehensive approach, but specific in kind. And here we are. The importance is how do we approach even this conference? You know, are we completely lost in many problems, or we have an attitude that can help locally and internationally, since the problem of refugees is changing continuously. You know, a few years ago we were dealing with refugee camps. We thought that bringing sports into refugee camps would help the process of normalization of this refugee. You know, the image that everybody has in terms of back to normality is to see children playing sports. When you see children starting to scream, to play, you know that the process of normalization is starting. But that was a very static approach to refugees. Now the refugees are moving fast. They're trying to move as fast as they can in order to reach their destination. So how can you ease their pain? So I want to say one thing. When I started a long time ago, one of the professors that taught me, I was still a student, told me that everything depends on how you approach things. And he told this story of a guy watching some workers, and he asked to a worker who was carrying a brick, say, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm carrying a brick." And then a second one passed, and he was still carrying a brick, and he asked, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm building a wall." And a third one passed, still carrying one brick. He said, "What you doing?" "I'm building a house." So I believe that this brick helps us to build a house. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Temos agora uma convidada palestiniana, Ana Talgiad, que foi uma conhecida e qualificada jogadora de futebol e que também ficou muito conhecida porque foi ela a organizadora dos primeiros encontros de futebol entre palestinianos e israelitas. De modo que ela neste momento trabalha justamente na FIFA como Corporate Communications Manager, e vamos ouvir então a Ana Talgiad apresentar-nos a sua visão sobre este problema.
Hello. Good. Bom dia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to this important event. It is a great pleasure and honor to be here talking about a very important topic these days. I will share with you my story and will tackle all the issues that we mentioned before: sports, development, peace, and refugees. Usually, when I'm traveling, it's always funny to watch people guess where I'm from, to see them apply their preconceived stereotypes and watch their facial expressions change once they know my true identity. It seems that my identity often confuses people. But I'll make it easier for you. My name is Hani, and that's my real name. I'm a Palestinian, an Arab, Christian, woman, and I play football, and football is my identity. So when I was a little girl playing in the narrow streets of Bethlehem, people called me a tomboy. The neighbors were concerned that nobody will want to marry me in the future. And everyone thought I will grow up without it. But I never grew up out without it. Football gave me determination to go on, to challenge society's definitions of gender equality. My passion for playing football and my belief in its ability to make a difference helped me overcome all the different challenges. The difficulties of being a young female playing a predominantly male sport in a conservative patriarchal society, of being an Arab Christian woman in a predominantly Muslim society. Football gave me the power to bring change. I knew then I had to develop myself and be a positive role model for young girls in our society. That's exactly when we started to establish and develop the women's national football team. It was in 2003 in Bethlehem after the second Intifada. In the midst of destruction, death, and despair, football gave me hope. Establishing the Palestinian women's national football team was a key determinant in enhancing the role of women in the Palestinian sports and the society at large. We began to see more and more women and young girls in the Palestinian Football Federation and other sports committees and in the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports. 13 years ago, we started from nothing with only 5 female players. And now we have hundreds of female players playing in 4 national teams for seniors, under 19, under 16, and under 14. If women can play football in Palestine, they can do anything. Football promotes equality. Moreover, in the Palestinian society, sports is a means to bring people together. In a society where Muslims and Christians live together, we were able to force diversity and national solidarity. If we look at our team, it's half Christians and half Muslims. But it is one team. In a context of differences, football creates a culture of unity. Through football, we were able to break the barriers. Imprisoned behind the wall in Palestine and blocked by the outside world, by checkpoints, football provided us a window to the outside world, a glimpse of brightness and a human connection. Football brought us all together, to play together, to interact together with teams from all around the world, share our cultures, our struggles, our smiles, our love for the game, to build bridges of cooperation and solidarity. Football knows no borders. In Palestine, the absence of self-determination and the decades of no resolution to the ongoing occupation resulted in a state of despair and no hope for the future. However, in the midst of instability, football was one of the few constants. That first football match in Palestine was as far back in 1998, and football continued to grow and prosper during the 1920s in major Palestinian cities like Jaffa, Haifa, and Jerusalem. Then, despite displacements and lack of recognition, starting in 1948. Palestinian football also continued to play a significant role in preserving and celebrating a Palestinian collective identity at home and in the diaspora. For example, Palestinian immigrants who took refuge in Chile established one of the top football clubs called Palestino, which embraces both their passion for football, and their Palestinian identity. The popularity and the beauty of the game brings millions of people everywhere together, taking pride in Palestinian football experiences. In addition, in 1988, one of the first international organizations to recognize Palestine as a sovereign entity came from being recognized by a member of FIFA, and then by a member of the IOC in 1995, although officially it was recognized in 1969. In the absence of Palestinian statehood, sports brought a reason for celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, football gives us, and sports gives us, recognition. As a Palestinian living my life under occupation and surrounded by walls, checkpoints, political restrictions, social limitations, and endless challenges, things can get pretty exhausting at times. Under occupation, life is unpredictable, but no matter what the circumstances are, as soon as I set the first foot on the pitch, it doesn't matter anymore whether I'm a boy or a girl, Muslim or Christian, poor or rich, or even oppressed. In the end, football and sport makes us all equal. Football liberates the mind. And the relationship between sports and politics is often a sexy platform for discussions, although football is allegedly non-political. The history shows incidents of using sports to pursue political interests, racism, and exclusion of players, corruption, and aggressive behaviors. However, several events around the world demonstrate the power of sports in promoting justice and equality. And this is what I believe in. I believe in hope. I believe sports participation is a key to empower women, to promote understanding, and to bring people together, and to encourage the new generations. That's why today I'm honored to be working at FIFA, helping to develop the game, touch the world, and build a better future. Since 2005, FIFA has been giving support and resources to non-governmental organizations worldwide that improve life through football. Many countries have received our support, from education and health to gender equality, life skills, and peace building. FIFA also opens its doors for refugees to access and use the facilities to play football and to dream for a better future. When people ask me how many languages I usually speak, and I say 3, Arabic, English, and football. Y un poco español. So football is an international language that people speak and understand. Regardless of all the differences, in the end, we are all together. In Palestine, football is a platform and a voice to communicate a different story to the rest of the world. A story not about death and misery, but a story of endurance, teamwork, enjoyment, and a celebration of life. Sport is for everybody, regardless of class, gender, or nationality. Growing up in the shadow of the occupation, sport gave me the confidence that the sky is the limit, not the walls. The little girl who started playing in the narrow streets of Bethlehem became a co-founder of the women's football national team and the first ever captain to play in this team, the first woman to get the FIFA master and to work at FIFA. Football empowered me to reach for the stars. For children living in conflict zones who have no opportunities for basic rights, life, and even hope, sports have the ability to direct their energy in a positive way and keep them away from violence and extremism, and create spaces for fun, healthy interactions, and ultimately integration. For that period of time when children in refugee camps or poor areas play football, they definitely have peace. Football creates spaces for peace. So football, ladies and gentlemen, and sports in general, has changed my life. And now I believe it's as part of the FIFA team, as an ambassador to many different organizations, including Save the Dream around the world, I want to help people to change their lives through football, through sports, and I hope all of us here today will continue to empower the next generations through sports and give opportunities for all. Thank you for your attention.
Pois bem, há momentos na vida em que devemos carregar as pilhas da nossa crença, do amor ao desporto. Acho que estas duas intervenções ajudaram a carregar as pilhas, porque são experiências concretas daquilo que é o valor do desporto. O que tínhamos combinado agora, temos até 11h30, não é? Exato, até às 11h30, temos a oportunidade de os nossos estimados participantes nesta sessão dirigirem perguntas aos nossos convidados. Eu pedi-ao por favor de dizerem o nome e a organização a que pertencem, por favor. Quer dirigir em português, em inglês?
In italiano. Buongiorno. My name is Enrique Pinto, so I'm one of those Irish, Italian, whatever.
Cousins, yes.
Military cousins, you know, with an ancient past. I represent Caritas of Lisbon, but the two questions I wanted to pose are rather personal questions related to a long journey of research, study, and so on. I believe that you agree with me that sports is not the end of it. We are not here to play whatever. Sports as a means to something. From your presentation, I gather that through sports, things or phenomena that are these days quite relevant and important to many people become irrelevant, such as religion, politics, whether you are a man or a woman, culture, whatever. In every football pitch or in every place where you play sports, these phenomena become totally irrelevant. Would you say that what sports makes relevant to everyone in the world is not just peace or development, but justice? Justice for the dead and justice for the living. Would you say that? And how, after a game, sports, we go into that exercise of building justice for all? Because that's the real question. Then for Alessandro, for quite a good number of years, I'm part of one of those organizations who created Football for Hope or the Homeless World Cup. I stayed with that organization for 12, 13 years, and we brought the Homeless World Cup into Portugal through CARIS. It's an organization quite known to the Portuguese people. My question has always been how to get rid of violence, and it is related to the scandals you mentioned, the scandals and many other scandals. But my question is this one: is it possible to live in a world in which humans have not the need to measure their own strengths? Is it possible to live together without that need to measure how capable you are, whether you are more capable than me? Is it possible? And this has to do with the competition. Is it possible to play wherever without that need to compete and measure strengths? Is it possible? And how, in your own perspective, the exercise of justice could be possible without that measurement? Without measuring, we would probably be focused more on justice, in another word, and not so much in in the competition, because you didn't say that, but one of the other scandals regarding sports is the humiliation of many people taking part in the games, because they are weak, because they're not capable. Thank you.
Obrigado. Bom, dada a natureza da pergunta, I'd like to invite you to give an answer. Não espero ainda por outras. Annie.
Thank you for your question. Actually, I do believe that through sports we can tackle so many issues in the communities everywhere around the world. For example, working in FIFA gave me a bigger idea about how sports can do. You know, in sports or football specifically, you can tackle gender equality, you can tackle race, you can tackle ethnicity, you can tackle human rights issues as well, and you can tackle all the problems happening in the world today if you give this platform to everyone around the world to access the sports, to access to football, and have the freedom to play it and free their minds and hearts from everything. Because as an example of my story, I could be a fighter easily, I could be a terrorist, I could be full of anger and frustration and stress. But football took me away from this bad energy and gave me a positive energy to overcome all my challenges and try to think of a better future. So I'm sure if we give this opportunity to others all around the world, they will stop thinking about violence, extremism. They will stop thinking about all the differences in the communities, because when we watch a football match in Palestine, we watch Barcelona or Real Madrid, that's it. So they all come together regardless of their political parties, regardless of their religion, regardless of their color, of their ethnicity. Football and sports usually brings people together, and that's my hope and my dream through organizations like FIFA, IOC, that together we can tackle most of the problems in the society to have a better world, indeed. Thanks.
Alexander, please.
Well, I thank you very much for your question, deeply. It's not a common say, you know, normally you are here and say, oh, thank you very much. No. At Save the Dream, the organization that I represent, we believe that sport is a holy place, is a sacred place in our hearts. And it's sacred for an amateur, a professional, a spectator, a referee. Why we care so much about sport? You know, we heard often this sport unites us all. Sport is the language that speaks to everybody. Why? My personal answer, but thank God has become also the answer of my organization, is that sport is the only place in life, the only one, where everything is fair. You win or lose, but it's fair. We all need a little bit of fairness in our lives. What are the aspects of our life that are really fair when you think about it? But sport, it is fair. This is why, for instance, Save the Dream is also fighting against match fixing, fighting against all sorts of corruption. But this is another story, you know. I think that the appeal that we all have towards sport is because the outcome of a game is really in our potential. You accept defeat if the other one is better than you. And you maybe plan to be better the next time. So, yes, you know, I think sports talks to every one of us because it's what we would like the universe to be. And it isn't so, but sport can be that. Now, regarding the competition aspect, there, it's a personal answer that I'm offering to you, while this one is institutional. I don't know, I practice many sport. when I play tennis, I enjoy the competition. I really love the struggle within myself and with my opponent. But I also run marathons, you know, and you are surrounded by thousands of people and the only goal is to finish. And I don't think that there is anything not noble in finishing in 10 hours. Actually, one of the most noble acts of the Olympism, you know, it's a marathoner with a broken leg finish up the marathon when everybody was gone and the stadium was saying, my country didn't send me here to start the marathon, it sent me here to finish. So I believe that the way we feel about sport is very personal. And the third point that you raise is the humiliation through sport. Well, this is something, when I was talking and said that sport must be protected by itself, that's what it is. You know, sport cannot become the releasing arena for frustrated coaches or frustrated parents that impose culture that are not theirs, behaviors that are not theirs to their children or to their pupils. I think that is one of the form of psychological violence when it's limited to psychological, which are terrible, you know. But sports need to protect by itself sometimes, because it takes one abusive coach to make the headlines and forget about all the good the sport is doing around the world, you know. One abusive coach and you for 10 days you have the first page of any newspaper. You have millions of resources through sports for development in countries like Africa, East Southeast Asia, Latin America, and nobody talks about it. And so we have to be very careful. Thank you.
Outra questão?
Let me disagree a bit with you, my friend. I think sport is fair in its essence, but as you mentioned, is devastated by match fixing, fiscal fraud, money laundering, which undermines their core values. And I will switch to Portuguese to share in a short period our experience with this project. Quando o Comitê Olímpico de Portugal falou e abordou...
Tem que ligar o microfone.
Ok. Quando o Comitê Olímpico de Portugal abordou o Comitê Olímpico Internacional para este programa especial, que relembro que eram 2 milhões de dólares, o COI disse-nos: isto não se destina à ajuda humanitária, porque para a ajuda humanitária existem os organismos das Nações Unidas, a FAO, a Unicef, etc, etc, o UNHCR, era isso que se destinava. Nós recentemente, quando abordámos o COI para a organização deste evento, e foi um dos motivos porque tivemos que mudar de data, deparámos-nos com o facto dos 8 comitês olímpicos que receberam apoio por este fundo especial, apenas 2 estavam a utilizar o fundo, Portugal e a Irlanda, que fará uma apresentação na parte da tarde, para aquilo a que se destinava, para, através do desporto, encontrar respostas sociais para facilitar o acolhimento de refugiados. Os outros o que estavam a fazer era ser mais um parceiro que prestava bens e serviços aos refugiados que estavam acolhidos no seu país. A minha pergunta é relativamente simples de se fazer e presumo difícil de dar uma resposta. Quando nós confrontámos o COI, eu vou passar para aqui porque isto está com algumas hipóteses. Quando nós confrontámos o Comitê Olímpico Internacional, o que o COI nos fez ver de uma forma muito clara era de que os Comitês Olímpicos Nacionais e as suas federações nacionais estavam demasiado focados naquilo que no fundo é a sua missão prioritária, que é organizarem e regularem competições desportivas, e algumas delas ainda mais com mais problemas devido a esta vaga, e nós vamos ter uma conferência amanhã que vamos falar disso, de problemas de boa governação que afetam a sua credibilidade e os valores éticos e de justiça que estivemos aqui a falar. Como é que nós conseguimos, e que estratégias, por exemplo, vocês no Save the Dream desenvolvem para capacitar as organizações desportivas desde o nível básico, desde os grassroots até ao nível de elite, para conseguirem alargarem a sua missão para fora daquilo que é o seu núcleo típico de organização e regulação de competições desportivas e serem efetivamente facilitadores de levar o desporto às comunidades locais e integrar os cidadãos refugiados através do desporto. Obrigado.
I'm going to join two questions.
Yeah, 3, 4.
Ok. Sim. Vamos só agora juntar 2, 3 questões.
Ora bem, bom dia. Antes de mais, eu vou falar em português, uma vez que estamos em Portugal e já percebi que há tradução. O meu nome é João Socorro, sou técnico superior de desporto da Câmara de Almada, entre outras passagens por áreas desportivas. Aquilo que estamos aqui a discutir hoje faz-me voltar um pouco atrás no passado, em Portugal, relativamente recente, quando nós estivemos em Lisboa a Gimnastrada de 2003. Penso que todos, ou quase todos, sabem o que é a Gimnastrada e, de facto, é por aquilo que tem como, digamos assim, grande evento desportivo e por aquilo que envolve, e por acaso tenho aqui ao meu lado um colega que também esteve bastante envolvido nesse processo, o meu colega Claudino. Uma das áreas do qual fui responsável na Gimnastrada foi a Pala de Portugal. E na Pala de Portugal passaram-se não todas, mas quase todas as classes de ginástica que participaram na Gimnastrada. A Gimnastrada tem cerca de 20 mil participantes de todo o mundo. E houve uma imagem que me marcou. Foi quando surgiu uma classe de ginástica israelita / palestiniana. Era uma classe de jovens. Tinha rapazes, tinha raparigas, tinha senhoras, tinha homens, e foi numa altura em que, como normalmente, havia grandes problemas na Palestina, com Israel, vice-versa, guerra, etc. por aí fora. Num determinado momento, antes da atuação, verificou-se que uma das meninas palestinianas faltava-lhe qualquer parte do equipamento. Imediatamente uma colega israelita foi ao saco, tirou o que a colega precisava e deu-lhe. E a exibição correu muito bem, como muitas outras que passaram pela Pala de Portugal. Aquela imagem ficou até hoje, estamos a falar de 2003, estamos em 2016. A questão que eu coloco, e estamos aqui a focar muito o desporto como instrumento, digamos assim, para unir os povos, para resolver problemas, nomeadamente migrações e outros, estamos a focar a coisa muito no futebol. Eu gostaria de perguntar aos dois conferencistas, para além do futebol, naturalmente, eu nada tenho contra o futebol, até sou professor de educação física, existe outro desporto, existem outras modalidades e, naturalmente, não com tanto dinheiro como o futebol, mas que mecanismos, que estratégias para poder fazer com outras modalidades esportivas, um pouco por todo o mundo, na lógica do desporto, desenvolvimento e paz, aquilo que aconteceu na Gimnastrada aqui em 2003 e que naturalmente acontece um pouco por todo o mundo com o futebol. Muito obrigado.
Muito bem, então, se quiserem só mais uma questão. Ok. Annie, would you like to answer?
Thank you for interaction. That's a great example you have given us, and definitely football is one thing, but sports in general is absolutely another thing. And it is important that organizations like the IOC and all the Olympics national committees all around the world try to encourage other sports. Why football? Football is just because it is easy. It doesn't require any equipment. You just need a ball to kick around, and that's it. You can play it in slums, refugees, favelas, everywhere around the world. While other sports with other equipment, it's a bit complicated, and for poor countries and disadvantaged areas and groups, it's difficult for them to have any equipment. So it would be great if the government play a big role in bringing awareness and give education to national Olympics and associations to provide equipment and give the chance to people to access sports everywhere in their countries. So I think it requires a lot of awareness and changing mindset that sports can do something in the communities and sports can empower the people. I mean, if you want to look at successful countries all around the world, you can tell from their sports usually. And I think the most important thing is our leaders should be aware of the importance of sports in general to establish education and awareness among the youngsters, because they are future. And it's good for the country actually, because if you make the youngsters, boys and girls, concentrate on sports rather than something else, it will change a lot in the society. And for the examples of Israel-Palestine and the power of football as well, it is also like very crucial, because FIFA decided in 2012 to create a task force committee to try to bring the two member associations together, because they are all members at FIFA, and to facilitate the free movement of the Palestinian players, because they face a lot of challenges, the permits to go outside the country, etc. And it has been a progress so far, not the progress needed, but it's a step forward. This year, actually this month, they will meet in Mexico for the Congress to update the committee and see what are the challenges and what is the progress for such an issue to bring the people together. And for example, what strategies can organizations have is, for example, FIFA is trying to build up a great network among the member associations, which are more than the United Nations. So we have 209 member associations. This means a big majority of countries around the world. And the strategy that FIFA has is to give football to everyone. Even in countries like Saudi Arabia, inclusion for women and participation. Of course, FIFA has to be stronger together with the IOC, together with UEFA, together with but they're trying to give big amount of money, like 75% of the revenues to countries to empower football and work together with other stakeholders and organizations. And now that the pressure is high, especially after what happened with FIFA and all the allegations and all the the issues that happened recently with the new management and the new leadership, FIFA is changing with the new reform to give more money to member associations, to bring awareness, education, change their mindset in order to build a better future for them through football, and hopefully with the IOC with other sports. Thanks.
Well, first of all, I think there is a difference between the icon, the idea of sport that we as sport people and our children have in their consideration. You know, I hope that any one of us who does sport does it without even thinking of cheating, you know, that preserve the purity of sport. Another issue is the fairness of the process that the system of sport put in place. I was very surprised when I saw the logo of Olympic Solidarity at the bottom of this conference that we are organizing. And I was surprised because every time we sat down with the IOC, the answer was clear. Olympic Solidarity is there to provide assistance to those athletes in those countries where otherwise they would not have a chance to become Olympians. So I must congratulate the Portuguese committee for having created this exception within the Olympic movement. I think it is very important that now this experience is successful, so that with the success of this experience, we can, together, if you want it, of course, go and knock again at their doors and say, listen, there is a broader scope, there is a broader intention to Olympic solidarity itself. The problematic that sport is facing are becoming bigger and bigger, and an entity which represents the world of sport must embrace it sooner or later. I think, we have been working in Brazil for the past 2 years, and there have been some very strange things that are happening in that country, and we have Save the Dream try to help, but have really a big problem to understand. For instance, when a city bids for an Olympic game, the government has to pass a law where it says that all the financial implication will be met, that whatever is promised is going to be delivered. There are no law passed, though, for the protection of human rights, of children's rights during the preparation for the Olympic Games or of a World Cup. There is a financial law passed clear, and this is the financial law that probably we can enter, whether he had put in trouble Athens in 2004 and having severe consequences for Rio in 2016 now, but is simply financial, is not open to other things. We were discussing yesterday that the city of Rio, during these events, closes their schools. So children do not have anywhere to go. They didn't have anywhere to go during 1 month of World Cup. They will have nowhere to go during 15 days of games. This is unfair to a country which has already so many social problems to have to solve an additional problem because of a mega sports event done there. But of course, these are things that needs to be solved within the system. These are reforms that need to enter inside FIFA for the bidding of a country hosting the World Cup, and inside the IOC for the bidding countries of an Olympic cities. There has to be brought to their attention that human rights have to be part of what a bidding is. Every mega event has this slogan, the legacy, what is left behind, what is left behind. And sometimes the legacy is a museum, is a bibliothèque, is a park, Los Angeles 84, what they have left is a foundation where there is a library and a few people in charge of books. Atlanta 96 is called Olympic Park. It's a park that for 2 years was beautiful. You just see wonderful trees, was all paved with bricks of people who have donated some money, and the names was in the bricks. You go there to see Olympic Park, it looks a little bit like a desert. All the trees are dry, and there is no much to see left of that legacy. Why? Because the legacy should not be on buildings and walls. The legacy should be in education. The legacy should be in advancement of the social condition of a country that hosts an international event. This is what I believe those events should facilitate, not prevent. Save the Dream. We talk with the institution, and we try to do our best to steer them towards what we believe is the best interest for young people practicing sport. But then it comes down to resources. And when it comes down to resources, in order to implement successful projects, since the access to institutional resources is difficult, and you personally experimented with this project, there is only one way to go, which is the private sector. We have one sponsor, Ooredoo. It's a technological company, very interested in Southeast Asia. And they are trusting us, and we are working with them in order to implement some projects, particularly in East Timor, in Indonesia. We will make the best of use of their resources. We are trying to gather some resources to do something for those 15 days in Rio when the school will be closed. The quick fix is not an easy one, is to go to private money, is to advocate for what we stand. But this doesn't make us quit the fight, let's call it a fight, but the lobby, so that the big institution embrace a little more, you know, the purity of sport the way I believe we see it.